Hello and thank you for joining us on ERi-TV. This is English News Broadcast live from the headquarters in Asmara at exactly 10:30 p.m. Today is Sunday, 17th of December 2023. The following are the top stories for this evening. National Union of Eritrean Youth and Students Annual Activity Assessment Meeting in the Central Region. Training for teachers, supervisors, and heads of schools provided. Philippines and Japan agreed to rush talks for Mutual Defense Pact. Rationers' end-of-rate rice cycle would hike to 16%. The National Union of Eritrean Youth branch in the Central Region convened a 2023 Activity Assessment Meeting and developed an action plan for the year 2024. According to Mr. Samson Kifle, the head of the National Union of Eritrean Youth and Students branch in the Central Region, maintaining the political, developmental, and occupational activities carried out and advancement made in 2023 required increased and coordinated cooperation for better results. Representatives from youth organizations in 16 subzones around the region, for their part, presented activity report aimed at enhancing organizational capability and empowering youth. According to the reports that were given, approximately 3,600 youth, including 2,184 females, received social science training, and 237 students who scored 90% or higher on the National 8th grade examination were given the Fitaurari Award. Participants discussed on the reports presented and adopted various resolutions. In a conclusion speech, Mr. Saleh Ahmeddin, the chairman of the National Union of Eritrean Youth and Students, urged the leaders of the youth groups in the subzone to intensify their effort in school circle, pointing out that 90% of the union's operation take place there. Workshop was organized on 16th December for 60 teachers, supervisors, and heads of schools in the Central Region. The workshop's main topics were lesson preparation, pedagogy, time management, and research planning. This is according to Mr. Tedros Abraham, the Northeast Subzone's head of education. The workshop was arranged by Mr. Kasetem Skinna, head of statistics and research planning, who urged the participants to give it their whole attention. He said that time management is the primary indicator of efficiency. Head of Statistics and Research Planning, Mr. Kasetem Skinna, who oversaw the training, urged the participants to give it their whole attention, pointing out that time management is the primary indicator of productivity. Trainees, on their part, underlined the significance of training both in their daily activities and tasks, expressed readiness to live up to expectation on their side. Trainees emphasized the value of the training in relation to both their everyday responsibility and tasks and indicated that they were prepared to meet expectations. A month-long administrative vocational training was arranged by the Eritrean Police for 27 personnel comprising police station heads and 34 members of the Department of Immigration and Nationality. The Police and Security Force Training Center in the Amhara offered the vocational training in a variety of areas, including administration, reporting and presentation, law, public relations, and marching, according to information given during the graduation ceremony on December 15. Major Andam Mahari, head of the Police Academy Division, said during the ceremony that the training is critical to recording incidents and enabling effective police responses. Colonel Habtemariam Tesfamariam, head of Administration and Finance of the Eritrean Police, expressed his belief that trainees bearing uniform, ideals, and armed with greater information will perform well. Trainees received certificates from Colonel Habtamaram Tesfa Mariam and Colonel Habte Mikael Tsagay, the head of the Department of Immigration and Nationality. Stay tuned for international news. We'll be back in a couple of seconds. Strong allies, Philippines and Japan, have agreed to quicken talks on possible deal that would give Japanese security forces easier access to facilities in the Southeast Asian nation. President Ferdinand R. Marcos and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida concurred to continue coordination to reach an early conclusion of the negotiation of the Reciprocal Access Agreement, RAA, the Japanese Foreign Ministry said in a statement following the two leaders' meeting on the sidelines of the Japan-ASEAN Summit in Tokyo. The two leaders also agreed to enhance cooperation between the coast guards of the two countries, the ministry added. The Philippines leader said the possible reciprocal agreement will give his country greater capability in terms of not only security but also in terms of disaster preparedness and alleviation. He told Mr. Kishida that this is something really very significant to both countries and will bring them a greater capacity to maintain the peace in the South China Sea. In early November, the two countries agreed to begin formal talks on the proposed RAA, which is similar to Manila's Visit Force Agreement with the United States and the status of Visiting Forces Agreement with Australia. Russia's central bank raised its key interest rate by 100 basis points to 16% on Friday, hiking borrowing costs for the fifth consecutive meeting in response to stubborn inflation and suggested that its tightening cycle was now close to completion. The bank has raised rates by 850 basis points since July, including an emergency hike in August after the Kremlin called for tighter monetary policy when the ruble tumbled plus 100 to the dollar. It has since recovered to just over 90. The bank said pro-inflationary risks over the medium-term horizon remained substantial and warned that stabilizing inflation near its 4% target would require higher rates for a long time. Higher than expected government spending would also raise inflation risks, it said. The central bank's tightening cycle began this summer when inflationary pressure from a tight labor market, strong consumer demand, and the government's budget deficit was compounded by the failing ruble. The bank said labor market conditions were the key supply-side constraints on the Russian economy, which it said was still suffering from the significant labor shortage, especially in manufacturing. But economic growth is set to outperform previous forecasts and exceed 3% this year. The bank said driven by domestic demand propelled by rising lending and wages. Russia's economy rebound is a welcome boost to President Vladimir Putin as he runs for re-election in March with numerous economic challenges on his plate. Now we have a quick recap of the top stars. National Union of Eritrean Youth and Students Annual Activity Assessment Meeting in the Central Region. Training provided for teachers, supervisors, and heads of schools. Philippines and Japan agreed to rush talks for a mutual defense pact. Russia nears end of rate rise cycle with hike to 16%. That wraps up our news broadcast for this evening. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.